is heady wine, and maybe that's the wrong analogy. It's like pregnancy. Once it starts, it's got to go to full term. There's no case in history that a group of men who have pulled power over their fellow human beings, pulled it together, that they've ever stopped and said, well, this is enough. It's never happened. They always want more, and more. And so,
isn't this a guild of the ultimate control freaks?
It is a guild. And the interesting thing is that they will vie with each other over control of that guild. So we have splinters within this movement today. Very important splinters.
But it's like Russian dolls. It's within the greater structure.
Yes. But they will fight with each other for dominance. And maybe we can come back to that.
And they even talk about that and say that's what gives them vigor. Yeah. Kind of like O'Brien torturing Winston. He says they're probably going to kill me too. But that's good because, you think I have black circles around my eyes. Well, my unhealth, me being worn out is part of the greater health of the vigor. We're the priest of power. It's about pressing on the nerve, Winston. It's always more, tearing humans apart, tearing language, tearing art, reducing it for power.
Yes, my gosh, that's well said.
That's Eric Blair wrote that.
I know, and it's so true. It's power for its own sake. It takes on a life force of its own. And the point being that, as I see it, that this process has never stopped short of total once it starts. So do we learn anything from that? The question is yes. I think we can learn that the process that we're dealing with now is not going to stop of its own accord. If we just sit back and say, well, maybe these people are going to come to their senses, or maybe if we write a letter to our congressman, or maybe if we sign a petition asking that they obey the Constitution, maybe we can stop this power. No, we've got to confront that power with equal or greater power. And this is the part that many people do not want to face.
So let's do solutions, because Horowitz is coming up briefly. Let's just do solutions now, and then to get into how the Barack Obama, it's all a distraction. That short-term thing, they get us diverted and distracted, that theatrical simulation of an election.
Yeah, that's a great topic, too, but I think you're quite right. The thing that we need to take away from any discussion like this is what the heck are we going to do about it? And I come back to the word power that I used a moment ago. The thing that the forces of freedom have been missing, at least in the United States, in the period of time in which I've been aware of it. I've been a part of this movement since 1959, 1960. The one thing that has been missing from this movement all these years is the understanding and the awareness that we have to have power. I remember for years standing in front of audiences and saying, well, the concentration of power is very dangerous, and that's the problem. All these people are getting too much power over us. Now, we ourselves must not have power. We must take the power away from them somehow, but we ourselves must reject power because that's the problem.
No, we need power.
Yes, but you see, that's the part that I was missing and many people have missed. And then one morning I woke up...
We only need power to tear down their structures and then to guard against the structures being rebuilt.
But that is power nevertheless.
Yes, well, it's dangerous. But see, that's where the anarchists are wrong. You've got to have some state to defend against the state.
It is dangerous. But
you've got to be eternally vigilant and guard the jewel.
Well, you're right on target. You see, it took me much longer to figure this out. I woke up one morning and said, as long as we say that we must not have power, we lose. We are going to lose. And so then the next step was, how can we...
When I own a gun, I have power. When I can own private property, I have power.
Exactly.
And I need power, not to have baubles and trinkets and signets of power, but to defend myself.
Exactly. I like that analogy because guns are dangerous, are they not? Very dangerous. People get hurt with guns, get killed with guns. The only thing more dangerous is not having them when you need them.
I got one right here, G. Edward Griffin. Yeah, and it's not because I'm some gun nut. It's because if some crazy comes in here, I'm going to defend myself.
Yeah, you don't want to make a 9/11 call.
And so it's the power over, not coming home to my family.
Right. So that's the analogy. We do need power to protect ourselves. And so in this political arena, in the ideological arena, the reason we have been losing our liberties is because these crazies, these collectivists, these totalitarians who have a different vision for
they crave it, they want it.
And they have it. They have it. They have spent 100 years moving into the power centers
of society. And now these freaks are going to kill 90% of us.
Yeah.
Stay there, G. Edward Griffin. We're going to be right back after this break. This is just unbelievable. We'll go over past 3 if it's okay. But you can take a break right now for 4 minutes, okay? We'll be right back, folks. G. Edward Griffin is our guest in studio. We're going to go to break here in just a few minutes, and Dr. Lynn Horowitz is going to be popping in for about 5 minutes with us. Mr. Griffin's going to stay with us. Continuing with Solutions, Freedom Force International, sir.
That's my cue.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we were talking about power and the danger of power. And the good analogy was made that guns are dangerous, that people get hurt with guns. But the only thing more dangerous is not having them when you need them. Okay, now we deal with political power. It's dangerous. Everybody knows Lord Acton's well-known quote. Acton said, "Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." And so that was the cue I had years ago to say, well, if power corrupts, therefore we shouldn't have power. And then I realized that if you don't have power, you lose. So the question then became, is it possible for a movement such as ours to reach for power, political power, and yet design it in such a way that it cannot be corrupted by the power? And the answer is yes, it can be done. It's just never been tried. Well, that's not true. It was tried in the case of the American Revolution.
Well, that's what the founders tried, and it did separate power for a while, and it did limit it enough for at least some freedom to take place, and it was the greatest engine ever.
It was a great experiment. It was the first step ever in history where people consciously tried to write a document that would limit the power of their own political leaders.
And 5% of the population got half the world's wealth.
Yeah. It didn't work, did it? Well, it's not surprising because it was a beta model. We are going to come to the time soon, I think, Alex, where we're going to have a chance to rework that model. Now we go to the second model, and we will have learned a lot in the process. The question is, how can you limit people with political power from being corrupted by it? And the answer, I believe, is to have a thought-out definition of what the purpose of government is. And if we limit the power of government, as we did to some extent with the Bill of Rights in our own Constitution, say that Congress shall not have the power to do this, this, and this, and then put teeth into it, we can keep our elected leaders from being corrupted by power because they won't be given the power in the first place. That's the solution. Don't give them the power. So that's my answer to it, and that's the reason that with Freedom Force International, first thing we did was to introduce what we call the Creed of Freedom. And the Creed of Freedom is the statement of principles, positive principles, that all members adhere to. And if all of our members and all of our elected representatives adhered to the principles in the Creed of Freedom, then there would be no way for power to corrupt those individuals.
And to be clear, I mean, nothing's ever going to be perfect. We're striving towards more liberty, towards more freedom, instead of racing at light speed towards total tyranny.
Don't expect it to be perfect, no. Human nature isn't perfect. But we can be a lot closer to the goal than we are now, that's for sure.
Talk more about Freedom Force International.
Well, the whole purpose of Freedom Force was to do basically what I've been talking about, and that is to help our members to acquire power. We know that without power, we cannot achieve any political reform. And in fact, the motto of Freedom Force is this. In English, it's, "Those without power cannot defend freedom." And there it is in a nutshell. We've got to quit being on the outside of the halls of power, looking in, saying, oh, please, those of you who make political decisions, won't you please listen to us? Won't you please...
Well, I've said we've even got to infiltrate. Now, that doesn't mean being dishonest, but be covert, act like mainline conservatives, get into power, and then really leak info. I mean, at the city council, send people to jail, find the crud, hire PIs to follow corrupt mayors. You're going to catch them. Put the video of them cheating on their wife on the web. I mean, I've told people to go ahead and get mean.
Well, getting mean that's not infiltrating. That's doing your obligation. You could go into political office because you want to serve the nation or the city.
No, I do. I want to bring down these people.
Yeah, bring down the corrupt ones. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's your primary motive. I think people should go into political office who want to serve their community.
But you serve by getting the corrupt people off.
You've got to do that first, obviously, yeah. So that's the nutshell. We have members now, Alex, in 58 countries. Just blows me away. I can't believe that, because I find out that there are people in all over the world that have basically the same problem. And it's growing.
I'll tell you what, stay there. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back and shift gears about their bioweapons programs against us, which I know you've covered, and the whole eugenics agenda. We're going to talk to Lynn Horowitz about 5 minutes. Then we're going to continue going back into solutions.
Fine.
I'm going to spend a lot of time on that, and then maybe a few calls, maybe go 10 minutes into the next hour and take a few calls as well. I'm Alex Jones. We'll be right back.